Hello and welcome to our webinar, What's New in Rightscale. Today we're going to spend some time with you going through all the cool new features of our most recent release and give you a couple cool demos as well. But before we get started, actually I have one question for you. So I'm going to launch a poll. And so if you could quickly share with us which features are you most interested in hearing about today? So this is actually a multi-select. Choose all of the ones that you're most interested in, and then this helps us tailor our presentation to you guys. So I'm going to leave this open for a couple more seconds. And actually, too, you'll notice the option at the bottom, Other. So Go to Webinar only allows us 5 choices. If there's something else that you'd like to hear about, share that with us in the GoToWebinar chat panel, and we'll be looking at that and try our best to address your comments and requests. I'm going to close this and publish the results. Cool, so there's a good distribution. A lot of you are really interested in new server templates that are coming up, so that's great. We have a section in our webinar devoted to that. And perfect, a lot of you are interested in widgets, audits, and the heat maps and stacked graphs. We have some good demos in store for you in a few minutes. So let's go ahead and get started. I would like to introduce our panel to you today, our distinguished panel from our product team. We've got Daryl Eaton. He's the Director of Product Development here at Rightscale. We also have Eugene Gimmelberg. He's Senior Software Engineer and also the lead developer for Widgets, and he'll be sharing that with us in a couple minutes. We also have Claudio on. He's a Sales Engineer. And then I'm noticing this is rather embarrassing on the Q&A line. TBD, his name is actually Chris Williams. He will be answering any and all of your questions as they come in, so feel free to update us in the GoToWebinar questions panel throughout any time in the conversation and ask your questions. We'll answer those, and some of the ones that are more broadly applicable will take and have Eugene, Claudio, and Daryl answer live on the air. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Daryl.
Sure. So first of all, Chris, we love you, so I'm just going to get your name in here really fast because we do things quickly here and in an iterative fashion, and we might as well do that here as well. So here we go. There you go, Chris. Anyways, welcome everybody to this webinar today. It's our first webinar where we're doing just a webinar based on the release. We want to start doing these regularly around the time when in between the dashboard release and when the server template release is going to come out, so that you can get a sense of everything that's coming out in the general time frame. So today we'll go over the dashboard release as well as a few different demos around widgets, infrastructure audits, and the new aggregated graphs, heat maps, and stacked graphs. I'm also going to give you a little advanced preview of the server template release that is scheduled for next Tuesday, both the Linux server templates as well as some of the Windows server templates that we're releasing. And then finally at the end, we'll have time for any Q&A. Of course, you can feel free to ask questions anytime during the presentation chat window. So let's get started with the dashboard release. So the dashboard release we pushed out on February 24th. And some of the higher level stuff that I wanted to point out in this release. First, we updated the navigation at the very top of the dashboard. We were hitting up against some limits in the width for both design components and clouds if you had a lot of clouds added. So now what you'll see here is a pretty slimmed down version of the top nav, and we want to basically get out of your way as much as possible for what you're doing inside here. So we provided ways for you to do that. And if you look, now we just have these nice hover menus that can start to grow as we add more design components and as we add more clouds and cloud resources to the dashboard. So everything is pretty much where you would expect to find it in terms of sub-menus and sub-navigation as it was before. So we did send out a quick heads up before we did this release, but it was pretty seamless, and we've gotten really great feedback so far. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out there. Also in this release, we changed the home page that you log into, so now you do see the widgets, which Eugene will go through in a second. That's about it for the navigation and UI changes. So let me walk through the infrastructure audits, which are also a new feature for this release. So one of the common things that we've heard from people is, I need to sort of get a quick sense across the board what's going on with my deployments, who has what keys, what ports are open. Generally focus around security first, but we've heard a lot of requests. So the first two that we've launched with are security groups and SSH keys, and we plan to launch more over time in terms of auditing your entire infrastructure. So these are available on premium plans and above, and under reports you'll now see a new entry called infrastructure audit. And you'll see two tabs here, security groups and SSH keys. Let me walk you through one quick recent audit. It tells you who ran the audit, when it was ran. This was all a snapshot of when you ran it, so we want to be very clear about that. But if you look down, you can see what ports are open in what regions, and what security groups are opening those ports, how many running servers are using that security group, how many next servers that might launch soon are using that group. So if you see anything out of the ordinary here that you didn't quite expect, you could either go into the security group and change it right from there, or you can actually click on the servers and change the security groups that are assigned to any of the servers that might not be what you expected. And you can see the server templates that are opening up those security groups as well. So there's also the ability to diff between two different audits. So if you do change stuff, you can run a diff and make sure that everything looks good and everything was changed. Or if you feel like something's changed recently, you can go ahead and run an audit and see what might have changed since the last time you ran an audit. And we'll keep around 10 audits, and you can run them at any time. Let me go back and just give you a quick overview on the SSH keys. When they come up. So very similar concept here. Once you run the audit, you can see which SSH keys are available in which regions, which users are using them, what instances they're running on, and if you need to take any action like revoking those keys for those instances or removing that particular key or user, then you can do that. So that's infrastructure audits in a nutshell. You can also download text and JSON if you want to store this offline in some sort of reporting mechanism. And for future, we do have the idea of adding kind of periodic audits, so you can set up a periodic reporting system. As you have feedback here, please send it in. Now I'd like to turn it over to Eugene, who is the lead developer on the widgets, so he can walk through a demo here on how you can use them and how you can customize them.
All right, thank you very much, Daryl. So I guess I'll start with talking about just the basic interface. So you'll notice that the existing dashboard overview page has been rewritten in the form of these little widgets. And these widgets are pretty cool because just like a portal, you can move them around, rearrange them however you want. You can also delete the ones you're not interested in by clicking on the little red X. Some of them can actually be configured, and I'll go into that a little bit later. And some can also be expanded. And one thing you'll notice here when I expand this widget is that you now have the ability to see more or less information depending on the state of the widget. These widgets are available to all the users in your account, so essentially it's shared just between your account. But the really cool thing is that each user's dashboard is completely unique. And this gets particularly interesting if you have different members in your team, such as developers or admins, and they may want to see different deployments, but for the same widget. So I'll just briefly show you how we can create a new widget and where you can find them. So if you go to the Design Widgets, you'll see that there's, on this page, there's two tabs rather. There's a custom and a built-in. The custom are the widgets that you create yourself, and the built-in ones are the ones that Rightscale has provided you. And essentially these are the existing components of the dashboard overview page, but they've been widgetized. For creating a brand new widget, we use, I guess I'll just show you this example. So the first thing you'll notice about these custom widgets is that you're able to pick what data source is exposed to them. You're able to select what kind of filtering they're able to implement, and you're also able to write the code for them. Now, this code is written in a language called Liquid, which has been made popular by companies like Shopify, New Relic, and the blog engine Mephisto. So it's a really powerful templating language, and it essentially allows you to have complete control over the presentation and any other algorithms you want to put into your code. So adding one of these examples is as simple as clicking the Add button, selecting the title, picking what kind of filtering you want done on it. So I can say that I can filter all the servers in this widget by a server template that is called test or something, or by the deployment production. So I'd like to show you an example now of how we can take an existing widget and tweak it a little bit and what you can do with it. So I'm going to take this server's example, and I'm just going to quickly steal all of this code, and I'm going to go back and create a new widget. So we'll call this widget the servers 2 example. And for the description, this will be custom coloring. So I'll quickly paste this in, and I will set the data source to servers. So currently we expose 3 possible data sources for your widgets. We have deployments, servers, and alerts. And over time we hope to expose more of these resources. So please stick around for the exit survey to give us feedback on which ones you'd like to see come next. So for this guy, I'll select servers. And now I'm able to say what kind of filtering I want allowed on the server. So I will say that the user will be able to set the filter at the time they add it, and the filters I want available will be the server template and the nickname. So now I want to add a little bit of dynamic nature into this widget. So I'm able to do that just like we have with WriteScripts. I'm able to set an input on this widget. So if I click on this little Add Input button, I'm now able to provide an input. So we'll call this one the background color. Just call it color. And it'll be the background color that we use for our display. Now, after that's set up, we have the type option for this input. Now, the text option allows the user to type in whatever they want at the time they install this, or the drop-down option lets me, as the widget writer, predefine what kind of options the user has. So let's just say that we will have a yellow option for the background color, and we will also have a gray option for the background color. And now, to actually have this come to life, I will simply go to this line of code and add this little snippet in here to set the background color. And using the liquid templating syntax, I can just reference it using config dot and the name of the input. So config dot color for this particular example. And I think that's it. So now let's see if this works. I'll click Save. I will quickly look to make sure that all of my code looks right, which I believe it does. and now I will click Add. So now when I add this widget, I'm able to set the title, such as Servers with Color, and I will do a server template search or by a nickname search. I really don't care about this right now, so I'm just going to leave it blank. I'm now able to also select how often I want this widget auto-refreshing and what color I want, for the color input, what are the possible things I want to put in. If you hover over this little eye, it'll show you the description. So let's say I pick yellow. And now when I render this widget, this little guy, you'll see that everything here in the background is yellow. I'm also able to right away click on Edit, change this to gray, click Save, and now you'll see it instantaneously update to gray. This one is currently stranded, which has a special style on it that makes it blink and is yellow. So really, all of this stuff allows you to have complete control over the presentation. Additionally, for filtering that Rightscale hasn't provided, it is very, very simple to implement it yourself in the actual code, and we have a lot of examples that show you how to do that. If you'll look at our documentation, we have quite a bit of information on using Liquid and how to create all sorts of unique uses for these widgets. We also have detailed documentation of what are all of the different attributes that we expose for deployments, for servers, and for alerts as well. So please check out the documentation if you have any more questions.
Thank you, Eugene. So we're super excited about this. We've heard people asking for a variety of different views into their environments, different reports, and rather than trying to build them all, we're trying to build a templating system that you guys can build exactly what you need. So one thing to point out about widgets is that you can define them for the account, so everyone in your account has access to them. But the view, the setup is actually by user. So everything that Eugene just did, he sees this particular setup, this particular information. So if you have, let's say you have an operations team that only cares about the production deployment, well, they can filter it by the deployment production. Whereas your developers might only care about the development deployment, and they filter by the development deployment. So this is designed to, be able to set up widgets that your whole company can use, but then everyone can conform to their unique needs and their needs for the views into their environment. So that is it on widgets. And we did have a question, which looks like Chris answered, but does the platform have APIs to allow me to create my own widgets in a different portal? So we do have an extensive API. It's not specific to widgets, but we have many customers who have used it to sort of create their own information portal. These particular widgets are not embeddable just yet, but if you have feedback on them and you'd like to see certain additional resources exposed, or if you have something coming up in your mind that's like, wow, I'd really love this widget, we have an exit survey poll that you can go ahead and please request whatever you want, and we will take that into account. So I also want to point out any sort of new stuff coming out in terms of support for our supported clouds. Amazon Web Services, we now support HTTPS for Elastic Load Balancers, so you can both upload your SSL certificates through our dashboard as well as assign them to load balancers instead of the HTTPS protocol and manage it ongoing. We also are now supporting custom origin for CloudFront. So for anybody who hasn't heard about this, CloudFront used to require you to put all of your assets in S3 that you wanted to be pushed to the edge network on their CDN. Now you can specify a URL that it will go out and cache everything, push it to the edge network. So for those of you who want to use CloudFront and point it to your app servers, for example, you now have the ability to do that, and you can now use our dashboard to set up custom origins for CloudFront. On the cloud.com cloud, we now support CloudStack 2.2, so they just recently announced this is out in the world, and we have many people sort of starting to upgrade already. We were working in lockstep with Cloud.com to make sure we had support ready for this. So as you update some of your private clouds to this new stack, the support is already there. So now I would like to go on to the server template release. So our server template release is currently scheduled for next Tuesday, March 22nd, and it's looking good. Let me first go through the Windows templates, which are actually already out. So if you go to the Rightscale library, which I'll pull up here, and click on Windows, you'll see some of the ones that we just recently launched that I can walk through. So here you'll see a few different templates launched in the last few days, and I'll walk through those. First, we have a base server template with monitoring enabled, and this is PowerShell only. And this is a great server template that you can use to start your development on Windows server templates. So you'll see that right here, base server template for Windows. If you're starting server template development for Windows, you want to clone this one. It has monitoring enabled as well as some basic sets of alerts and monitoring in there. And you'll get a good sense of how to define inputs in PowerShell and create PowerShell-based Windows templates. That particular template also works on Rackspace. So we are very happy to release Windows 2003 and 2008 write images in beta on Rackspace. So you'll see here a little screenshot of the same server template. This is the one that I just showed you. Running on the same image in both Amazon and Rackspace. So super excited about this. We've been working very closely with Rackspace to get this up and running. And even though this is public beta, if you are planning to try this or if you do start to pick this up, please contact your sales representative. We want to hear as much feedback as possible on this and make sure that they can get the feedback to the product team. So that, if you want to get started, again, if you have Rackspace launched, just go ahead and import this template and you'll be good to go to get started on Rackspace with Windows. One template that we're also very excited about is the database manager for Microsoft SQL Server. So we've been working on this for a little while now. And you notice it here in the library if I go back. So we are making this available as a public alpha. And I'll kind of walk through some of the features of it. So this is supporting both Windows 2003 with SQL Server 2005, as well as SQL Server 2008 on Windows 2008. And what we have done is we've written a bunch of PowerShell scripts that set up Microsoft SQL Server and using AWS EBS volumes as the data where we're storing the data. We've also worked very hard on leveraging volume shadow services to make sure that we pause everything on the file system, get the database ready for an EBS snapshot, take that EBS snapshot, back it up to Amazon, and do this on a continuous basis, as well as helping you restore any particular snapshot that you might need. We've also put best practices alerts for SQL Server pre-installed and done in a way that you can kind of see how we did it and extend it if you want to. So again, very excited about this template. Our MySQL manager has been very popular and serves as the base for many of our Linux customers, and we think that this will now serve that same purpose for many of our Windows customers. A few more templates to point out from our partners that are already available. One is the SharePoint 2010 All-in-One Server template by Pilius. So this installs an entire stack with SharePoint, so you can see how to get SharePoint up and running in the cloud as quickly as possible. And another one that I would encourage you to check out is the Gluster storage appliance that just recently launched. And this helps you set up a Gluster network storage, and which is completely automated on automated backups. You can have striped EBS volumes. It's a very impressive template that Gluster's worked very hard on, so I encourage you to check that out as well. Now, coming up next week, first to point out new free developer all-in-one templates for both PHP and Rails. So for those of you who are not familiar with our developer templates, these are ones that we make available to even the free accounts. and they have code checkout from S3, and they also have database backups for the MySQL database to S3 and restore from S3. These are very popular templates. Many of our paying customers even use them. We've upgraded we've upgraded Rails to Nginx Passenger. Many requests for these. So if you watch that template come out, we'll also tell you which versions are supported when that comes out. We try to make it done in an easy way where you can upgrade and choose different versions of the software if you do run different versions of the software. We've also released, or will release, new example templates showcasing both WordPress on that all-in-one template and Mephisto on the all-in-one Rails template. So you can get a sense of how to pull in code and set it up. And finally, we are very excited about our first compatibility release going GA. So for those of you who do not know what a compatibility release is, over time we've released many templates into our library at various times, and so they had different write images underneath them. We have a concept of freezing the software repository so that you always get the software that was on a particular date, so your server is guaranteed to come up and configure. And they were all frozen at different software repository dates, so it was kind of difficult to bring scripts from other templates, put it on yours, and make sure that they would work. What a compatibility release is we've taken all of our most popular templates, we've put them on the same exact images, built at the same time, and we've frozen the repository dates to the same date, so that when we launch all these templates, and we include the full web stack, so our MySQL database managers, the HA proxy, load balancer front end, all of our application tier servers like PHP, Rails, Tomcat, and we put them all out at the same time so that when you are using this environment and you start to develop additional scripts on any one of those templates, you can easily move them around to other ones, and there's a much higher chance that they're just going to work. So we're very excited about this, and we're very excited also to have our partners starting to develop into these compatibility releases, so even when you're working with partner templates, they all just work together. So for this one, we're releasing CentOS 5.4 and Ubuntu 10.04. With this, we've also worked very closely with Canonical on making sure we get the right kernel that works best on Amazon EC2. And we have the full web stack, as I mentioned in this. So that'll come out on next Tuesday in GA, March 22nd. Also, very excited to point out that the database manager for MySQL 5.1 is now available on CentOS. So even though CentOS 5.4 does not have this as a default package, we received many requests to do this and are using a RPM provided by MySQL to set this up on CentOS 5.4. And it works beautifully and will be included in the compatibility release. So that is it for the server template release notes, and look for that next Tuesday. At this point, if you have any questions, please ask them in the questions window. There's one here. What does the SQL Server template do exactly? So I think I managed to answer that one. But if we take a deeper look at the server template, maybe this will help. So if I go into the library, pull out the Windows Server template, go ahead and import this. What's important, I'm just going to go ahead and look at the scripts so that we can just drill down on them a little bit more. So we're installing the standard monitoring for Windows. We're also adding some additional monitors for the SQL Server database. We're installing tools for the database manager that we might need. We're starting up the database, SQL Server Writer. We're setting up the drives that we're going to use for the data source. We're setting up a default backup policy. So this is a continuous backup policy where you can have daily, weekly, monthly, and this is configurable by you. And then also, let's see, we have some scripts, operational scripts, so if you want to restore a particular data volume, you can do that, as well as if you want to take a backup that's not a part of the regularly scheduled rotation, you can do that too. Creating a data volume, we'll give you this one script to help you create the initial data volume when you're first setting up your server. And then finally, if you decide you're ready to shut this down, we have a script that allows you to just take a final snapshot, detach and remove the volume, and just shut down this whole server. So that's exactly what that does. Okay, can you explain what a compatibility release is again? So this is a pretty advanced concept that I think if you've been working with server templates for a while, it's easier to understand. But if you're just getting started with server templates, you might not have hit it yet. But to try to explain one more time, many of our customers use a variety of different server templates that they've imported from the library. And if I can give maybe a specific example, let's say I brought in the Tomcat app server from Rightscale, and I also brought in the Jaspersoft template that uses Tomcat as well, so that I can run that for my analytics and reporting. Now those templates might be on different, one might be using Ubuntu, one might be using CentOS, they might be pulling down different package versions. And let's say I have maybe I drop in the standard SSL certificates that I have for my company into Tomcat. So I've done that, I've written that script for the app servers, and now I want to just bring that script over to the Jaspersoft one. Well, maybe it's using a different version of Tomcat, so the configuration file is slightly different. And so when it modifies the configuration file, it might not quite get that SSL right, and the machine doesn't come up without a little bit of development work and a little bit of tweaking. So what a compatibility release does is it makes sure that across everything that's in the compatibility release, all the packages are the same. You can stay on the same exact image and distribution version. So right now everything's on Ubuntu 10.04, which is a long-term support distribution, or on CentOS 5.4. And that way, if you do develop a script in one area, when you take it over to that other server, it's going to have the same exact version of Tomcat installed. It's going to be on the same exact operating system, same exact distribution. And so chances are it's going to work straight out of the box once you bring it over. So many of our, I know we've been betaing this with many of our customers, and they're very excited about this. And they've already started to develop their templates for the compatibility release. One thing to point out too is what you'll see coming out on Tuesday. So everything is going to be in this category here that we have 11H1 compatible. As partners add their templates to the compatibility release, we'll also put them in here. But one thing I want to point out is with each compatibility release, there's a base server template. And you'll see this here. This will go to base server template 11H1 once it goes to GA. It will have all of the images that we use in our compatibility release and scripts, and it will be using the same software repository dates so that when you develop off of this image for any additional custom servers that you have, and about half of the servers that we have running in our environment are custom servers written by our customers, then any script that you write for this template or vice versa for anything pulled from the compatibility release, you'll be able to easily move those back and forth across those templates. So I'd encourage you to start on the base server template with any of your development on the Linux side as well. And I think, let's see, what else is coming up on widgets? There's a poll in the post-release to essentially ask you guys that. So whatever server templates you're looking for, whatever widgets you're looking for, please answer the poll. I know we do want to add some additional actions so you can actually start servers from a widget, and that can help you kind of make a sort of a little self-service portal for the people on your account. And we're also currently working on bringing some of the aggregated graphs, the heat maps and the stat graphs into those widgets as well. So I think that is it. Although I realized that we said we would demo aggregated graphs, but it wasn't on there. So why don't I just go here very quickly. So one of the things that you can now do with the deployment is you can have aggregated graphs across a bunch of servers. So here you see that it's looking at the server template front end. So any server templates that are running with that particular, any servers that are running with that particular server template are going to be pulled into this aggregated graph, and we're asking for Apache requests with this. Here you see front end 1, front end 2, and you'll see that it's a stacked graph adding up the Apache requests for both servers, or you can just kind of get a sense of the individual servers. So these are graphs that you can use to get a sense of your entire infrastructure. We've also added heat maps. So if I pull this down to a heat map, you can see across these servers, here's server 1, here's server 2, when they're getting hot. So this is great about, if you have about 100 application servers in your deployment, well, it's pretty hard to have a bunch of graphs here, although we do have cluster graphs which can show you them individually. But pretty hard for you to quickly look through and see if there's anything that's kind of wrong. Whereas with the heat maps, you can see, are all of my app servers getting hit at once? Or is there any particular one app server that seems to be having a problem? And so very quickly looking at this graph, you can answer that question. If you find out it's just that one app server, number 2, you can take that one out of the rotation. If you find out all of them are sort of getting hit all at once, well, then you can think about scaling up more app servers, or thinking about looking into the code and seeing what's taking that much time. And that is it for the heat maps and the stack graphs. The way that you get to this is you go to deployment, monitoring, add a new cluster monitor, and then here you can decide, do I want this to be showing me the individual graphs for all the hosts, the stacked graphs for all the hosts, or the heat maps for all the hosts. And just to give you a sense of the individual graphs, that's what it'll show you for the individual graphs as well. And that is it. Any more questions? What editions offer the aggregate monitoring stack graphs? Those, I believe, are available on premium editions and above, so these are definitely useful for our customers who have hundreds of servers, and that is available on premium and above. Let's see what else is there. What is the difference between the MySQL Database Manager template and the MySQL Server templates that do not include the manager in their title? It's a good question. So moving forward, all of the templates will be called Database Manager, and you'll start to see us deprecate the ones that do not have that in the title. The Database Manager template is an evolution from the MySQL v2 templates, so there is not much difference. It's just that we are changing the name, and we've since those templates were released, we've done some more bug fixes, added MySQL 5.1 for CentOS support, things like that. So no difference. And I think that's about all the questions that we have. So if you're looking for the current release notes, we always have them at support.rightscale.com/release_notes. Look for the server templates ones to be published next Tuesday. And we're very excited to be starting these. Hopefully it gives you a sense of an easier, digestible sense of what we're releasing each time. And again, I'd love to hear the feedback in the post poll that you'll receive.
Cool, and that ends our webinar. Thanks everyone for joining us today. This webinar has been recorded, and we will be sending it out to you later this afternoon. You can also access it on our website at rightscale.com/webinars. And just one final reminder, we really are keen to hear your feedback about today's webinar and about the different widgets and other features that you're interested in. So please just take 1 minute to fill out the exit survey that will pop up once you exit this webinar. Daryl and the team will be looking closely at this, and we really appreciate your feedback. Thanks again for joining us today. Have a great day. Bye.